Tonight, the night is young, as they say. It's Tuesday night, January 14th. We're going to be speaking about Papa Joe tonight. And this month actually was his birthday. I think it was January 7th, but I'm not sure about that. Right, which if it is, it was the same birthday as Devorah. We have to look into that to see when it was. Of course, nothing is more fun than doing Papa Joe. The challenge is going to be connecting it to Avodas Hashem, but I'm sure that's not going to be a challenge either. We're going to put in Joe Lefton. It tells us that he's buried at the Beis HaMedrash HaGadol Cemetery. He passed away at the age of 98. His birthday, this is unbelievable. His birthday is January 15th, 1908, in 1 hour. It's January 14th right now. In 2 hours, it would be his birthday. January 15th, 1908, the year that the Aruch HaShulchan passed away. And he passed away June 13th, 2006, at the age of 98. Oh, it says Yosef Wolf Bar Dov Ber. Yosef Wolf Ben Dov. So his father's name was Dov. And so Dovi over here, he's named after his other grandfather, but this would be a great-grandfather, actually. This would be Dovi's great-great-grandfather, because it's Gramps' grandfather was Dov Ber. Yosef Wolf's father was Dov Ber. So, but we do see that we have a Dov in the family, another Dov. And the Hebrew name is Yosef Wolf, but in English it looks like the name is Joseph William Lefton. And we'll start off with this. He lived to the age of 98. And a lot of times we ask a question of what schus does the person have? Is there a schus that the person has that maybe we could identify that could tell us why he's zoichet to such arichas yamin? And we'll never really know for sure. But with Papa Joe, I remember my father told me that his kibud aim was extraordinary. And it was in that schus that he had such arichas yamim, vishanim. So that's something very interesting to keep in mind, because we don't always get to hear that. We don't always get to even get that far with it. We'll never know, of course. But even to have that type of a hypothesis, we don't always. Usually, people are asking in the world, they'll ask like, what habit, not spiritual schus, like what healthy habit did the person have that caused them to live so long? Well, let's say we were to do that with him. Let's say we were to ask, not from the Torah perspective, but just to know, did he have any healthy habit? Well, I can tell you that, to me, he had a sense of humor. People know him as being a really good sleeper. That can go either way, because you could say the reason why he was always falling asleep was because maybe he really wasn't a good sleeper, but he had no issues falling. Now, he stayed with us every single Shabbos, just about every single Shabbos from the time I was a little kid. Just about every single Shabbos he was with my parents' house, and he would come. We even have an interview with him on one of his trips, because there was just so much shtick, so much fun, that I don't even know if he knew that what was happening over here. But this is what would happen. So in our family, on Motzei Shabbos, there was this tkufa when I was in 5th grade, when Rivka Pike, Rebecca Lefton back then, and me, we did this news, but it was news on video. And maybe you've seen it? Have you seen it? Okay, and Gramps was there too. So sometimes it was me and Gramps. And basically, we would say what was going on in the city. So Gramps would start off saying, like, his voice would sound like really monotone, exactly like they sound if you listen to the news, there's one of two ways people express themselves on the news, and they're opposites. Either the person is full of emotion, and usually the weather guy will be like, in the back of me, the waves are coming in, and like the weather guy be full of emotion, and the news guy is saying the most horrific stuff, just like a robot. Like there's no emotion. So Gramps would start off the news like that. He would say, like, on the east side last night, 6 cockroaches and 8 wild coyotes were caught in a fire last night. And like it was just like random things. And they were taken to the hospital. They were taken to the hospital for the dogs. Now it's a phrase. When the hospital's not good, you say that hospital's for the dogs. So it's like there actually were dogs being taken to the hospital in his news story. And so some of it was like fake stuff like that. The news always starts off with a fire or a shooting. Nowadays it's a shooting, but there's always something. You won't hear about like cockroaches. You might hear about a dog, but not really like cockroaches. 8 ants, 6 wild spiders. And then the news continues and everything. So one of the news segments was Gramps saying, if only we had it. It's at Saptalois' house on video, and we just don't have a VCR. But he said, in other news, Mr. J.W. Lefton traveled for Shabbos. He left his home and he went someplace, and he took the following items with him: 3 suitcases, 4 bags, 6, just the list goes on. And when asked how long was he going to be away for, people were wondering, would it be a month? Would it be... And he was going to be away for one night, Friday night. So they came to ask him, why do you need so many bags and so many suitcases? And this was a quote that you'll hear all the time, and the family who listens to it will get it. The family who's never met him won't get it. But they say it in his voice, is that, don't be a damn fool, you understand? Don't be a damn fool. Now you say that and you'll see, if you say that, you'll see people will laugh. People who knew him, like, even though I know it doesn't, what's the humor to it? Like, but he did have a lot of bags, and just a lot of bags. It was packing up his car to take him back home on Motzei Shabbos. Just constant bags. What? He lived just a few blocks away. It was within walking distance. And we were bringing out, I remember Rivka was taking out bags, I was taking out bags, and we would put, this one news night, we put all the bags right by the car. And I came up with the video camera to interview him. Like, he didn't know really, like, why he was being interviewed, but like, and he's like, what happened to all the bags? And we were like, they're right by the car. What's the matter? Someone's gonna steal them. So we had like a whole little news thing, whatever. So, but going back, taking him back, we had 3 cars, because he took his huge white car and he would go, but he was not really a safe driver. He never got into an accident, which is amazing. But he wasn't safe. Nothing bad ever happened, but just he would fall asleep at the wheel. Daniil Daniil Lefton said he used to see him just, he would see if you see a big white car with the yellow line of the street in the middle, the car's over the yellow line. It's supposed to be in one lane or the other, but this car was always over the yellow line. There's no cars in the road because it's St. Louis. And just going through all the stop signs. Going through all the stop signs. And it would just... he never got into any accident. It was like unbelievable. It's he never got anything as far as it was like one of the most, it was like comedy. It was just so we would follow him home to make sure that he got there, and then someone else came with a big flashlight so that because he had so many keys and all the keys looked the same, and to find the key that opened the door took forever. And it was pitch black because the light switch to turn the light on was on the other side of the other side of the door. We need the light switch on this side of the door. But just like our house, if it's dark out there. You can't get in. The light switch is inside. So we have the flashlight. We would go key after key after key until finally we would get in. You shake it a little bit, and you would get in. He would stay with us every single Shabbos. Now, he had some of his really cool shit, some of the things he was known for. Giving people spelling tests. That was one of the things he was known for. And there were two words he always asked people. How do you spell Schenectady? That's a city in New York. And how do you spell Poughkeepsie? Any person who walked in, anytime a friend of mine walked in, anytime a friend of Rebecca's walked in, anytime it was... and he would ask, how do you say this in Hebrew? How do you say... Does he ask that?
He's like, I don't do that again.
So, he would ask, how do you... So, Poughkeepsie is Poughk... I don't know, Eepsie maybe. And Schenectady is also... There's something in my tooth. I don't know what. So, I don't know, that's one of the things that he was always famous for. Sitting also Friday night, he would put a napkin underneath his nose for an entertainment thing when there were little kids around. But here's a couple things that we'll just say that something really unbelievable that I think people could learn from in general. So, he was somewhere between traditional and Orthodox. It's hard to know exactly where to label him exactly. But so came time for the Muslimin when it was time to bench. So he would be there with the bencher. I mean, when I knew him, so he was about 80. And when I was in kindergarten, he was 80, and then at some point 90, at some point 95. His mind was as sharp as can be. He was very smart, and his mind was sharp all the way to the end. He never lost his memory or anything. His mind was very sharp. So when it was time for a mezumin, though, you would give him a bencher, and he was always searching for the mezumin. He was never able to find it. Never. He would hold the bencher upside down, and then it was always is he listening? Is he not? Is he going to answer? We don't even know. Do we have... But there were a couple... Then there was a time when he was sleeping. He was sleeping, and we said, he said the whole thing by heart. He was sleeping. We were we said to him, we don't get it. When you're up, we don't even know, if you know it. You can never find it in the bencher. But then when he's sleeping, he knew the whole thing by heart. So, I think in a certain way, we might all be like that. In a certain way. Sometimes we actually know things that we might think we don't know. It could be we're just overthinking it. And it could be that if we just do it, we'll realize we know the whole thing by heart. It's only when we try to think about, do we really know it? Then we don't really know it. But it could be that a lot of us are really like that. One of the most interesting things I think that you can learn from him is that the whole marriage situation. Him and his wife, Dorothy, left him. Because, as everybody knows in the family, and we've heard more recently as well, not just from Dorothy, but from her father, which would have been my great-grandfather, that my father said she was the one responsible for sending the sons away to yeshiva. The reason, it's a lot of Mesiras Nefesh to send a child away to yeshiva. Anybody who was at the banquet where they honored Daniel a week ago, whatever, and you heard Jesse speak about it, like what it felt like, I actually recorded it, the audio, what it felt like sending a child away, you could see the emotions, and I remember the way my mother was like, just, you're sending your child that you love very much, you're sending them away from home. The child's in 8th grade, so parents cry a lot, especially the mother cries a lot, and it's a tremendous Mesiras Nefesh. And when you live in a city like Chicago, you don't need to do it, and you don't do it. Some people say it's better not to do it. But even if you say it's better not to do it, one thing, though, is you lose out on that expression of Mesiras Nefesh. The people who do it have an opportunity to be Makayim Mesiras Nefesh, to express a certain Mesiras Nefesh that those who don't do it, self-sacrifice. So when you live in a small town, especially in those days, like St. Louis, where either there was no yeshiva or at some point there was a yeshiva, but for whatever reason, this is what was best. Sending the kids away to yeshiva for the purpose of Torah learning. So that's something that's done with Mesiras Nefesh. So that came from his wife. Now think about that. And came from her father, as we heard earlier this week from Ellie, that the impact that her father had on Teddy Zephyrin, Lester Zephyrin, a story which perhaps you didn't hear, and it's a really good story, so I'm just going to say it. Is that when they went to New York, they went to Torah Vodaas. Teddy Zephyrin and Lester Zephyrin, they went to Torah Vodaas. Now, like I told you, the first day of sleepaway camp is just horrible. It's always raining. The first day of sleepaway camp, it's always raining. It makes no sense, but yet it's always true. You'll see. Every year, no matter where I went, Baltimore camp, it was always raining and cold the first day. I wouldn't go to a camp which had no tennis courts. So I would not go to a Midwest camp. But I did go to Yeshiva Sakayitz. So, and it was raining and cold. And you leave, and you're always leaving from a town which is sunny and hot. I guess because I'm coming from St. Louis. And you arrive, the first feeling is, what in the world did I do? What a mistake. Like, how could I should never have signed up for this. I remember the worst one was Morosh HaKollel. It all changes after a few days, but every other word, we were learning Masechta Yuma in Morosh HaKollel, every other word was Inoi, because in affliction, that's what it talks about, the afflictions of Yom Kippur. And then my friend, Mike Wiesenberg, he called it Camp Inoi, just camp, but we came in the bunk beds, the mattresses are so small, and the spiders, and it was raining and cold, and the Rebbe, very chashuv Rebbe, he was very tall, and he came in with a pile of Sfarim that went all the way up, and I thought I was going to have fun that summer, and I did, but on the first day, that's what it's like. So, what were we saying about? Oh, right. So they went. So Les and Teddy went to Torah Vodaas. Now they're not alive right now to tell us what they saw, but what we do know is that they sent a letter back home, which pretty much describes what I just said. It described, you could hear Ellie's description of it, and I have it in a recording, like just how dirty and how it was just like just dirt and we're coming home. There's no way we're gonna. It was exactly the way what I experienced in my first day of sleepaway camp every single summer, no matter what camp I went to. That's what it was like. So Rav Yitzchak Meir Funk, he told them, he said, listen, when you have a seed, if you want to plant a fruit tree, where should you put the seed? Where's the best place to put the seed? You want to have a nice, beautiful fruit tree. You want to put it in, would you want to put it in dirt? I mean, or soil, where would you want to put it? Where do you want to put the seed? So Tzivia, go. Right. A seed you put in dirt. That's exactly, right now we're planting seeds. Right now you're young. These are seeds. You're going to sprout into beautiful fruit trees. You're going to have fruit of your own children. Every word he said was miskayim, because it's multi-generational right now. There might be 100 descendants right now, all learning Torah. This really was a seed. This was a seed planted in soil that became a beautiful fruit tree. In this case, I mean, his words, he was just saying it to be like mechazik them, but I think his words contained a certain bracha because there was something unusual with that branch of the family, more so than any other. It's more intense over there. For example, Teddy's brother, Rav Shimon Zefrin, was the Rosh Yeshiva of Montreal, which is the Telz Yeshiva. He's Rosh Yeshiva of Montreal. That's like big time stuff. We have very big Talmidei Chachamim on our side of the family, such as Uncle Jerry. He wasn't the Rosh Yeshiva, but whenever a Mashiach would come to him, or when I came collecting money for yeshiva, the first question he asks, what Masechta are you learning? And then he says, what daf are you on? And then he'll start asking questions on Tosfos on that daf. And the amount of money that he gives you is based upon how well you know that Tosfos. And I don't even know if Rosh Yeshivas do that. So on one hand, I'm saying, Shimon Zefrin became, and Jerry was like a lawyer. Uncle Jerry was a lawyer. But regarding being a Talmid Chacham, I grew up like that, with Jerry always being like that. And I almost took it for granted. When you go to yeshiva, you learn Torah. So you learn, of course, you know all the Tosfosim and everything. But then I realized, and especially when I say the stories over, no, this is one in a million. I don't even know if it's I've never met anyone like that. That's Rav Yochanan's wife is able to, I saw him do that. He's able to do that. He went to the Chicago Community Kollel, and he gave a shir klali, and he didn't look at the sugya for 25 years, and he was mamish, bombing them with kashas, everything. But that's in a completely different setting. But for a lawyer, that's his profession, and just Uncle Jerry, he did that just to everyone. It was just Mastiach Lefi Tumo, he did it. So there was a lot of Torah, but that's what the planting of the seed. So that's what Rav Yitzchak Meir meant by the planting of a seed. Now let's go back to the shidduch over here, because this is the main thing. Okay, now we have the shidduch. We have Joe Lefton, and we have Dorothy Lefton. Okay. Now, if you were to think about that in this day and age, where would she be? Picture her 20 years old, and picture him 25 years old. Where would each person be? And would this shidduch work out? would he go through? So I'll tell you exactly where each person would be. You would have a girl. The girl went through Beis Yaakov, living on the East Coast. Her name is Dina, or Dorothy. It wouldn't be Dorothy, it would be Dina. Her last name is Funk. Okay, fine. But that's, okay, it would be Dina. She went through Beis Yaakov. She's looking for a kollel guy. That's what if we were to translate the story to nowadays, she's looking for a kollel guy. She's going to call the shadchan. She's looking for the best guy in kollel. They're all the Beis Yaakovers are looking. The shadchan always starts off each shidduch saying, he's the best guy in Lakewood. That's how they always start off. Okay. Now, so you have Joe Lefton. What does Joe do? He's the owner of a scrap metal company. He makes a lot of money. Is he Orthodox? We said we don't like traditional Orthodox. I don't know, maybe Ezra Israel, maybe like Rabbi Doug. I don't know, like maybe that. Like if the Shadchan had read that shidduch nowadays, so like, listen, I don't have the Shadchan. I know you're looking for the best guy in Lakewood, but I don't have that. I have a guy. He lives, on a farm, like out in the Midwest. He makes kiddush on Friday night. Makes kiddush, and he could be from. I mean, so would you be interested? So she would say no. She would say no, and they all. But look at what happened over here. And see, we have a big shidduch crisis going on nowadays. We have lots of girls, Baltimore, New York, they can't find the shidduch, and it's a very serious problem, and it's horrible. It's a horrific tragedy. It's the crisis of our times. And the problem is there's too many women versus guys. That's the real problem. But you also have to realize, so what happened back then? Back then, it was just, we have this person that if she was around nowadays, from everything I hear about her, she for sure would be looking for a Lakewood guy. This is someone who is, someone learning in kollel. This is someone who's moiser nefesh to send her children away to yeshiva. Her top-notch Talmidei Chachamim coming. This is a very, very serious. She's very serious. Her father's very serious. You have to wonder what in the world was Joe Lefton's relationship like with his father-in-law? Was his father-in-law as accepting of Joe? Or because the halacha is that a girl should marry a Talmid Chacham. So, what was it like? Was it like, why didn't you marry a Talmid Chacham? You married him. Why didn't you marry a Talmid Chacham? But I think maybe we could see from that story that it actually worked out, and they raised kids that were B'nai Torah, multi-generational Shomer Torah and mitzvos, and even Talmidei Chachamim. And it's not just that. See, with Papa Joe, he was very unique because Gramps used to say stories about. So one of the things that women, as Shomer Torah u'mitzvos women do, is they go to the mikvah. They go to the mikvah, and it's actually a fundamental. It's a big fundamental to go to the mikvah at certain times. It's like just like you light candles, just like. That's a very big fundamental. So we're not saying all the details here, but it's a very big fundamental. And for him, and it was Mesiras Nefesh for him, if he didn't believe in it, it's like, it's not clear where he stood. But what was clear is that he went along with everything. And all those stories they say about her dropping off money in the middle of the night, you have to wonder whether it's really true that he didn't know about any of this. Because, I mean, it's very likely that he did some of this stuff himself. So, it's something that we could all learn from, that type of that setup that happened back then and how matzliach it was. Perhaps we could change our mahalach in this generation and we would see similar stories. Perhaps, especially by a strong-minded person, like a Dina, perhaps they should consider people outside of Lakewood. Perhaps their koichos hanefesh, Hashem expects them to utilize it to its fullest, and they could do more avodas Hashem by choosing this path over the other path. Okay, so that's something that we just said some special words about his father-in-law, his wife, their shidduch, about him. And we have some of the cute little stories, which, and then hopefully some more stories come. Okay, here's cute story number 1. I know Yehuda Pike loves this story. And the story is when all of them drove to Florida. They all drove to Florida. And they drove back. They went by car. Now, their car actually had a record player in it. It's very unbelievable because they had like luxurious stuff. So they had a record player in their car. Now, that's a little bit irrelevant to the story. But if you ever look at the way Gramps drives or the way his father drives, Papa Joe, you'll notice that, and I've noticed this all the times, that the head doesn't turn. Sometimes I drive like it too, but like just there's usually the way I picture is one hand is on a big gulp, the other hand is on the steering wheel, and the head doesn't turn. So I guess it was Jerry, but the other kids agreed. They wanted to see when they stopped at a gas station, and their mother, so it's his wife, so Dorothy, left and went into the gas station. Maybe she went to the bathroom. I don't know. And then he said, okay, they filled the car up with gas. And he said, okay, everybody in? So they decided to say yes. Really, everybody wasn't in. Really, she was still in the gas station. But they wanted to see, or maybe just Jerry wanted to see. And Jerry, since he was the Bechor, or he had the personality of a Bechor, so just everyone did what he wanted. So he wanted to see how long will it take before Papa Joe notices that she's not there, that she's not in the seat right next to him. So just everybody in? Said, yep. Said, okay. So they drove off. And then they said it took about an hour. Maybe not exactly an hour, but about an hour, he turned his head to ask a question. He turned his head to the passenger seat, and he's like, hey, where's Dorothy? And they're like, oh, we left her at the gas station. And everyone's like, don't be a damn fool. Like, that's the line that he says. Don't be. Okay, so they turned around. They went back to the gas station to pick her up. And that's one of our stories. Another story, it's not so much of a story, but it's remembered once Jake was at his house. Jake actually used to visit him all the time. And I think someone like that has every right and should be in the nursing home business because they're a natural at it. Just like caring for elders. That was very clear that Jake was like that from the beginning. So Papa Joe would ask him, are you going to the game today? Let's say, where are you going to go into the game? And it would be super hot. So he would say, put a napkin in your mouth to filter out the air. And I don't know what he meant. Every Thanksgiving, he would pay for the entire family to go to the Marriott. It was a really big thing. We would all go to the Marriott. In fact, in the earlier years, before I was born, he would pay for everyone to go to Florida for Pesach. Everybody went to Florida for Pesach. So I'm sure they have all the stories. They were there. Judy, Neil, all of them. How could we be running out of stories? Oh, yeah. Right. Okay, so I just thought of... I remember once we had someone... So my parents used to have the most interesting characters stay at their house. Very, very interesting characters. In fact, basically, the people who nobody else would ever have in their house got sent to my mom, got sent to Savta Lois. And I don't even think she knew, like one of them, she was on the list. Like young Yisrael would call her. The real reason young Yisrael was calling her is because there's absolutely nobody in the community who's willing to have these people. But she's like, yeah, we'll have them for a Shabbos. So one guy we had was, I answered the door. I remember it was Erev Pesach. I answered the door and he said, Shalom Aleichem, I'm so glad to be here. I was just released from jail. He was just released from jail. And I was schmoozing with him for a long time. We went downstairs, and then Saftalos was like, "What?" When I came, she's like, "What were you schmoozing with him about for so long?" I'm like, "Listen, he went through a lot. I was only in high school. Like, he went through a lot of. Sorry, he just came out of jail, and like, what? He just came out of jail, like." So then she told Gramps like what his name was, and then he's like, "Oh, that name. I have to call Jerry about that name. He might be a gangster." I don't know. It was a whole big thing. But Jerry said his brother was an issue, but not him. But we would have him, and Papa Joe stayed at our house as well. And with all the different types of people, it was always Gramps, which we're saying Papa Joe was always there, along with the character, whoever the character was. One guy, I remember, he would stay at our house. There was a tekufa, he was at our house every single Shabbos. He slept in the basement. And he would wake up with this unbelievable appetite. And he would just start eating. He would eat everything in the house. Like everything was... There were times just everything was gone. By the Shabbos Suda, I don't want to say his name because a person who stayed at Savtalos' house, he'd sleep in the basement, he would wake up and everything was gone by the time the Shabbos Suda. And then we kept having him again and again, and everything was gone by the time we got to Shabbos Suda. I just remember like one morning, I was in the den. So Papa Joe, he was sitting on the recliner. He loved that recliner. There was a certain recliner, which people say the reason he came to our house and only our house, rarely the other houses, was because of this recliner. It was that recliner, sometimes he went to Jerry's, sometimes it's Phyllis, but Phyllis, he had to go up the stairs. But our house, it was all on one floor, in Olivet. But there was a certain recliner that he loved. It was like double this size. You know what I'm talking about? So he loved that recliner. So he would like he heard all the commotion going on, like someone coming into he heard like the things being eaten up. And I just know there are people who get a kick out of the story. So I'm just going to say it, but even though the only thing that happened, it wasn't much of a story really. It's just Papa Joe was like, "Hey, what are you doing in there?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm having some breakfast." Just save some for the folks. You understand? Like, he's like, yeah. Like, that was just there must have been something else, because there's a story and people laugh at the story, and the way I said it, there's nothing funny. So there must be something that I'm missing over there, because the last time I said that story, people laughed, and there was something funny to the story, but I don't remember what it was. So we had all these. We had one Shabbos. We had these two people dressed up as Meshulachim from Colorado. The police called my parents' house right after Shabbos. See, we're mamish being Mekayim Yehuda Pike over here. I'm getting to the police called my parents right after Shabbos, and they asked, "Do you know who these people are?" And my mom said, "Yeah, they were." And she said wonderful things. And the police said both of them are on America's most wanted list. They need to be arrested immediately. Are they still there? And they were nowhere to be found. Apparently they left the city on Shabbos. We don't even think they were Jewish. They disguised themselves as Meshulachim. And of course it was the young Israel. The same they called about the guy who was released from jail. They called about these two people. Could you have them? Could you have, and we had all different types of people. It's amazing that the house was in such good condition. It's like, almost like, it's a segula, I think. I think Hachnasas Orche maybe is a segula that your house should be in good condition. So, like right now, you look around, you see the fruit fly, anyone who's listening to this recording must realize there are no fruit flies in our house right now, but you can tell that there used to be, because we have these things up. So, but you see, when there's Achnasas Orchem, it's not a kasha. It's not a kasha of how is the house in such good condition when you have burglars and robbers coming each and every Shabbos, people released from jail. Maybe the teretz is that is part of the siyata d'shmaya of Achnasas Orchem. There's a better. That's part of the schus of Achnasas Orchem, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will see to it that you will continue to have what you need to continue the mitzvah of doing Achnasas Orchem. You have to ask someone. Ask Mommy or Rabbi Brody. I don't know. So, and I think Hachnasas Orchem is very likely an area. I know he was always in the background for all this. Papa Joe was always there, and I'm sure that's something that happened in Gramps' house. Gramps is in Papa Joe's, your Gramps' house. So, and that's something very phenomenal. There's stories of Meshulachim coming to Gramps, as in Papa Joe's house. The Meshulachim would come, and he would write out really big checks, but especially the ones who would watch a boxing match with him. He loved boxing. And if you would watch a boxing match with him, then you would get, I think it meant something to him. It meant something to him. So he was about tzedakah. So they had Achnasas Orchem, and that's something that I think was given over to my parents, and he was part of our Shabbos. He was a guest, I guess, but kind of like a Ben Bias in our house every single Shabbos. We covered the Marriott. What? Have we ever been to the Marriott? For what? Thanksgiving? I mean, I know that. I don't know. a hotel, a really fancy hotel with eating. It was like a restaurant. It turned into like a restaurant for Thanksgiving. They say he worked very, very hard. There's stories of him running on top of railroad cars. And it's like hard for people to envision that these things were happening. Because at the end, he didn't seem like he was able to do that. It is getting late, but nonetheless, who can tell me what Parsha we're on this week? We do have an unbelievable story in this week's Parsha. And Moshe almost died. The Malach almost took his life. Tzipporah saved him. So we'll speak about that, I think, maybe some other time because it's so late. It's already 10:50, so it's time to go to sleep. I see that Yisrael is already sleeping, and then we'll see if this came out.